the ruthlessness of mankind, an unheard of demonic haunting, and a man's fascinating escape attempt. Which of these concepts are real, and which are pulled from our imagination? That's up to you to decide on this episode of Fact or Fiction.
The line that divides the factual from the unreal has long since blurred. The tales we once thought fantastical, now implanted as true. To decipher verity from the imagined, you must break from the ordinary and consider a universe where the outlandish prevails. Can you expand your mind to see beyond our perceived reality? Can you decide what's fact or fiction?
It was an innocent gig for young Emily Lane, but one that encroached on another's territory, eliciting a response that many will find shocking.
Jack Lane was more than happy to provide his daughter Emily with the supplies she needed for her lemonade stand. He encouraged her entrepreneurial spirit, though he half expected her to grow bored of the business and want to meander the county fair. To his surprise, though, on the day of the big event, she remained diligent about her work. She was a big seller at the fair, wedged in between an all-beef hot dog cart and a truck dishing out sausage and peppers in droves. The smell was driving Jack crazy, but he promised Emily he would stay with her the whole day to see how well her business was doing. About halfway through the fair, he popped open her till and counted $50, a fine return so far on $10 worth of supplies. Little did he know that, by the end of the evening, poor Emily would really wind up being more than $100 in the hole. Ted Bradley was an ornery old man known for peddling his frozen beverages each year. Nobody ever drank them. They were always way too thick, but he always found something to blame it on. This year, it was little Emily. He came to the cart, looked Jack right in the eye, and inquired about Emily's permit to be selling her lemonade. Jack initially laughed, thinking he was finally cracking a joke. But when he stood there dumbfounded by Jack's reaction, he knew there was going to be trouble. A brief exchange of words, and Ted walked away, dissatisfied that Jack refused to force Emily to shut down her business. So, instead, he turned to the authorities. Jack knew the law, but felt it ridiculous to impose on a child. Still, the officer, whom Jack suspected was closer to Ted than he let on, slapped Emily with a $200 fine and forced her to close the stand. Her head slumped toward the ground. Emily insisted that she give Jack the money to pay for the fine, but her father wasn't having any of it. Jack thought of confronting Ted, but feared it would end in a fight that would surely kill the old man. Instead, he took the opportunity to explain to Emily the one aspect of the world she hadn't had to deal with yet: the harsh jealousy of others.
Could a grown man be so cruel and jealous as to shut down a young girl's lemonade stand? Clearly, no adult could stoop so low to ruin a child's day, right? Be sure to let us know what you think in the comments section below and by using the on-screen poll. We'll find out if this story is true or not at the end of the show. But first, we have a tale of horrors that will surely keep you up at night. Can a house be evil? Eva Ashton knows the answer to that question all too well after purchasing a new home in Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
It was meant to be the family home, a place where Eva and her children, Charlie, Rose, and Alexis, could share a life together. Eva had eyed up Gatlinburg long before she found the home on Brentwood Lane and was enamored by its history and small-town feel. She didn't know that both of those things often come with a hitch, a host of ghost stories that may very well wind up being true. Unfortunately for Eva, hers was among the verified accounts. While the stories Eva was telling about her new home sounded implausible and impossible, it was only a matter of time before a curious party came in and tried to discount her claims. That individual was Gary Welling, the first police officer that went the extra step to look into Eva's horrifying ordeal. She and her family didn't complain of the typical nuisances that came with a haunting. Those things had been long gone by the time Welling arrived. Instead, Eva spoke of possession, young Charlie climbing backward up a wall, levitating beds, and demonic voices emanating from her sweet children. It was just like that Long Island case, but he felt this one may have actually been credible. The further Welling looked into it, the more he witnessed. He started bringing in third parties to help prove he wasn't going mad. And when they, too, saw what the Ashtons were going through, he felt better about his own mental state, terrified for the family, but reassured that he wasn't going nuts. Investigators arrived in droves to pinpoint the source of Eva's ordeal. Many sought a practical response, walking away with nothing but more questions. The children, visibly tired by what some claimed to be their mother's delusions, were eventually taken by the Department of Child Services. Eva could feel the presence in her, but had no control over it. With her children gone and her life spiraling out of control, Eva did the only thing she could think of. She underwent an exorcism. It was a violent series of attempts at releasing Eva from the inhuman force that overcame her. She fought back, her voice speaking in tones that seemed impossible for the woman. She did eventually beat whatever overcame her and was able to petition to have her children returned. The story of the Gatlinburg home attracted plenty of media attention, but while the Ashton family ordeal had subsided and they began the path of a normal life, the damage had already been done. Eva, tired of the public response to their very private affair, eventually sold the home in an effort to return to a life of complete and total privacy.
Did a family living in the Southeast live through what some claimed to be a verifiable ordeal involving demons, ghosts, and ghouls? It does sound like the makings of a horror movie, doesn't it? Let us know what you think in the comments section below as we get ready for our third and final story. Items throughout history can pop up when we least expect them, like the incredible discovery Corey McIntosh made while combing the beaches of Oahu one day.
He wasn't sure how nobody else had found it. Maybe it washed up after so many years. Corey had heard stories of wreckage still being found in the Pacific, so surely the device that sat in front of him, pulled from a patch of seaweed not far off the coast of Oahu's southern shore, was from one of them. Corey was no history expert, but he knew, considering the markings on it and the location, the foot-long object had to be an unexploded Japanese bomb from World War II. There was no way it wasn't going to make him a ton of money. He just had to find a way to get it back to his hotel and find a potential buyer. That first part, however, was the tricky one, and expensive. Isolated on the Hawaiian Islands, there didn't seem to be much of an opportunity to sell World War II memorabilia, so he would need to find private transport back to the mainland, where his find wouldn't be scrutinized and deemed too dangerous to fly. To Corey's surprise, finding a private charter that wouldn't ask questions for the right amount of money was fairly easy. With it packaged tightly to prevent unnecessary movement, he set back off to the U.S. mainland. Upon arrival, it was time to do some research to find out what he had and who would want it. What never occurred to Corey was that an explosive device that's more than 70 years old still posed a danger. But he went at it, brushing off the debris accumulated over the years at the bottom of the Pacific. He never would have expected it, but it turns out his cleaning and slight movements was just the right combination to cause a reaction. It may have been far from the explosion it would have yielded in the 1940s, but it was enough to collapse the first floor of the home into the basement, burying what was left of inquisitive Corey. The investigation into the explosion that followed initially assumed it was a meth lab gone wrong, but when experts pulled metal shards from the explosive device, they pieced together what had happened. Corey's steps were retraced, leading back to the transport service across the Pacific, which described him as excitable but secretive. Ultimately, it was determined that Corey had uncovered a No. 3 Model 2 bomb used rarely by the Japanese during World War II. It had a smaller yield and was incredibly rare. If properly defused before transport, Corey may have walked away with a decent sum of money.
We know memorabilia from wars long since ended can still be found all over the world. But was Corey's find real or a tall tale? Well, we've reached the point we've been waiting for, the reveal.
Are you ready to find out if you can decipher between fact or fiction? Let's look back at tonight's 3 stories and find out which were born from reality and which were fabrications of the imagination.
We started tonight's episode with our story of poor Emily, the lemonade business owner. Could someone have been so cruel? The sad truth is, yes, it did happen. The 5-year-old daughter of Professor Andre Spicer in London was fined 150 pounds during a festival when it was discovered she didn't have the required permit. How about our second story that follows the Ashton family? If you think this one is too far-fetched, you may be surprised to find out it actually happened. Granted that it happened in the sense that one Latoya Ammons of Gary, Indiana, relayed a story about a haunting in her home. Her claims of levitation and demonic voices were largely believed to have been verified by third parties, lending credence to her claims. Her home was later purchased and demolished by Zach Baggins of Ghost Adventures fame. Finally, we have poor Corey, a visionary who got in a little over his head. Do you think some vacationer to the Hawaiian Islands uncovered an explosive device from World War II? While the No. 3 Model 2 bomb used early on in the war could have been a fascinating find, our story never happened. This one was fabricated by our very own writers.
How well did you do in tonight's video? Did you look past the deception of our world and define the off-blurred line that struggles to separate lies from the truth? Let us know in the comment section below. And should you find the urge to test your perceptions again, be sure to subscribe and join us next time when we ask you to decide what's fact or fiction.